I just started to remember today that 11 years ago I was at a parent and toddler group in England where we were living at the time, and we had a lovely family centre. And one day, just that day, it was exactly 11 years ago, a speech and language therapist came very close to me, asked me a few questions about my son, who at the time was exactly 18 months. And she asked me, how is he doing, and is he speaking? Being a speech and language therapist, she was interested in his speech, his language development, and so she asked me how many words can he say. And at the time, I was lecturing at the University of Reading. One of my students was doing a project on my son. So children of linguists have this kind of life. And so I knew exactly how many words he could say, because in each language, because the student was exactly picking up on both. And the speech and language therapist was not very impressed. So he could say fewer words than she thought an 18-month-old should say. And she was very supportive, but she also said, well, the reason for this is that you're speaking Italian to him. And, she didn't know that I was gonna probably kill her for saying that. I went home, and it didn't disrupt my life too much, but it was the first early comment I got when my son was a year and a half. And 11 years later, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a parent-teacher meeting, and I was having lots of nice compliments about my daughter, who's 8, about how creative she is in writing. She writes and writes and writes, and it's, the teacher said, oh, she's so much, she's using words so well. It's a pity your spelling is not great. It must be because you speak Italian at home. And I know it's not a joke. It was actually something that was said to me, so I didn't say anything. But anyways, this is nothing compared. If I'm a linguist and I don't get, nothing really changes when I hear these comments, other than maybe I start a conversation. But this is nothing compared to my friend who moved from Kurdistan to the west of Ireland with a very small baby and was told not to speak Kurdish. She was told, please don't speak Kurdish to your son. And this is now an 18-year-old, is not a baby anymore, and he's not able to speak to anybody in his family who speaks Kurdish. So just recently, he decided not to go over to Kurdistan with his family because he feels completely unable to communicate with anybody or feel part of whatever is going on, and he needs an interpreter to speak to the grandparents. So what's interesting, and also following on what was just said, is that sometimes Irish speakers share the same stories, and they say how they've been asked, well, why would you speak Irish to your children? What's the point? Or would you not just rather go for a language like Spanish or something more useful or global? And so I don't think this is about migrants or migrant languages or about places in Ireland where it's more or less diverse. I think it's a mindset, and that's the mindset that we want to change. And so when we look around in this room, I'm delighted to see so many people, and we know that we're not alone on this journey, for sure. I know everybody in this room agrees and actually smiles when we talk about this story, so agrees that more work needs to be done in this area. And our role at Mulliton's is to complement the knowledge that is already there in educators, in people working with children, to work on those key moments, to enhance the expertise of people who work with children, who are all children, not only multilingual children, but all children. And we need to work on the expertise of professionals in this world that is multilingual, and we can't do anything. This is the world we're living in. Mayor Peter Kavanagh has mentioned the multilingualism and the melting pot in South Dublin, but a lot of you come from lots of different parts in Ireland, and all of Ireland is multilingual. So what we do on Mulliton's is creating spaces for professionals working in the early years and primary years to learn from one another, and also from experts about bilingualism, also linguistic diversity, inclusion of all languages, and the engagement of families in the process. We've also been working and talking to parents quite a lot, and a lot of parents have told us that the resources we've given them have given them confidence, have helped them to sometimes keep going at times when you feel that maybe you're just on your own going against all odds, when monolingualism is so much stronger, and the attitudes may not be so positive. But as you all know, many of you work with children. When you talk to adults, you can only go that far. When you work with children, I think you really get, and quite a few people you're working with children know that you get a lot of satisfaction and you see a lot of success when you work with children. So we don't only work with teachers or early years educators and parents, but also with children directly. And our program, Language Explorers, which started in 2018, engages children and families, and it's rooted in the belief that all children benefit from reflecting on linguistic diversity in a structured way. So all children need to see, hear, and experience multilingualism, and this is why we work with families and with schools to create these spaces where these conversations can happen. And I wish there were children here to actually, or a big video to show you what happens. Some people here have seen it in action, and it's probably one of the most rewarding moments of our work. It's just when you see children's kind of sparkle in their eyes when they're talking about their language, when they're teaching their friends, when children say, I've never been outside of Dublin, but I can count in 8 different languages. And when you see children going to their friend and say, can you teach me how to say that in your language? So we see change in front of our eyes, but it's also important to know that not only we're not alone in this room, but Europe is giving governments the responsibility for this kind of work. In February, the Council of Europe adopted a recommendation of the Committee of Ministers to Member States on the importance of plurilingual and intercultural education for democratic culture. Sounds like really complicated, but what they say in their own words, which I really like to take, is that the efficient functioning of democracies depends on social inclusion and societal integration, which in turn depend on an understanding of, respect for, and engagement with linguistic and cultural diversity. So I'd like to reiterate that talking about linguistic and cultural diversity is not just for bilingual children or families, it is for everyone. And this brings me to the motivation for having a festival like the one that we're launching today. The festival is an opportunity to promote linguistic and cultural diversity and highlight their significance for bringing about positive change. It is a way to celebrate culture's manifold forms and to reflect on how these contribute to dialogue and mutual understanding. This is why artistic expression is so important, because it allows us to stretch our limits and go outside our comfort zone in ways that we cannot imagine. It allows us also to have difficult conversations and create a reality in front of our eyes in ways that are unexpected and transformative. We're delighted to share the news that as of this year, Mother Tongues Festival becomes the first festival sanctuary in Ireland. And none of our work is right now easy or quick. None of what I'm describing, even what the Council of Europe want to do, is not something that is going to happen overnight. And also this is work that cannot be done by one organization on their own or 2.5 people on their own. It takes a lot of collective effort and joint up thinking. And so that's why tonight we have so many of you, and we're not only looking at and reflecting on the impact of our own work, but we want to talk about other projects and other people who've crossed language boundaries and have harnessed the power of multilingualism. And that's the booklet you're holding in your hands, which holds a lot of good ideas and good projects that we will be discussing shortly. What's really important to me is that we feed off the inspiration, even reading through these projects. It's really empowering to see how many people are acting and moving forward in that direction. And we would like also as Mother Tongues to continue to be an inspiration for you as well. And I hope that tonight is just the beginning of many conversations.